So I showed out every single free plugin and library that I found that can be used for making metal music. I then put all of the ones that I like the most in a template, which I'm gonna give away for free to you in the end of this video. You can also just go to the description and download it right now if you're in a rush, but I suggest you stick around because we're gonna talk about some cool stuff along the way. So here's what happened. Around 2 weeks ago, I think, I made a video listing some of my favorite free metal plugins. And the response on that video was nothing short of incredible. Thank you so much to everyone who watched and commented on that video. Speaking of the comments on that video, you were cool enough to share some really cool free metal plugins, which inspired me to make probably one of the biggest shootouts I've ever done in my entire life. What I did is I downloaded every single free plugin I could get my hands on. Everything that you guys recommended in the comments, I downloaded. That includes like MIDI drum plugins, MIDI bass plugins, guitar amp sims, mixing effects, everything. And it's not just plugins, I tried different IR packs, samples from different places, as well as Kontakt libraries, but I'm like counting that in the plugin section, so whatever. And yeah, I basically started my shootout with the drums, and I did it like element by element. So I loaded up all the free drum MIDI plugins that I could find, and I just tested the kicks. After finding like a blend between 2 or 3, I think, different kick samples, I continued to the snare, again shooting out all the free drum plugins that I could find, and I even added like a little EDM sample in the blend. And by the way, I didn't mute anything. Like while I was tweaking the snare, the kick was still playing, and while I was trying to get the cymbals right, the kick and snare were playing. Like I tried everything to be the best it can while still being homogeneous. Is that a word? Like I wanted everything to blend and mix together well and not sound like it's a kick from here and a snare from there. But then I came across a problem. If I had 3 different kick tracks and like 2 different snare tracks, that just renders the template useless for writing. And so what I did is I created a drum controller track, which is basically a MIDI track where you still program the drums as if it's a normal drum plugin. I'm gonna explain how I did all of that and how it works in the walkthrough section of this video, so definitely stay tuned for that. Or if you just want to skip to that, there's timestamps. So yeah. After the drums, I went to bass. The MIDI bass was one of the biggest problems in my last video. I actually asked you guys to recommend me specifically MIDI bass plugins because the 4-front bass I found was pretty shitty. And you guys recommended some plugins. I showed all of them out. After I had chosen the MIDI bass plugin that I wanted to use, I just had that playing along with all of the drums, and I just showed out different bass amp sims until I found the one that I really liked. Then we came to guitars. This was, like the drums, a bit more of a time-consuming process because what I did is I showed out all the different combinations that I could think of boost pedals, amp simulations, and different IRs. Like that doesn't just include the cab section in plugins, but also different free IR packs that I found that you guys recommended. But yeah, that was pretty much the shootout. I just literally shot out every single free plugin that I could find. And also some free samples and IRs and libraries. And the byproduct of that rabbit hole that I went in was basically the really cool template, which I thought, hey, I might as well give that away. I also obviously made a song with it to show you how it sounds. Here's the song. If you have any feedback for me, please don't hold that to yourself, leave it down in the comments. Like if while listening to that you thought, hey, the guitars are a little too scooped or something, or the kick is a little too boomy, or the snare is a little too clicky, or whatever you thought, leave that down in the comments. And if you propose a solution to how that can be fixed, by obviously not introducing any paid software, I'd be more than happy to update the template and just make it better as time goes on. I'd also just be very grateful for the feedback. So what I had originally planned for this video is for me to at this point list all of the plugins that I used, but I think it's pretty useless, so I think we're just gonna go to the walkthrough where I'm gonna show you how everything works, and again, I'm gonna list every single plugin that I used anyways. If you're interested in any specific part of the template, like specifically the drums or specifically the guitars, I should have timestamped the whole thing so you can skip around, and yeah, hope you enjoy. So, in front of me I have the project for the song you should have already heard. Let's just go through it and show you all the cool free plugins. First up, this is the drum controller track. It basically has this MIDI effect track. It splits different note ranges and it sends the MIDI from the different ranges to different tracks. These tracks are in this drum bus right here. For the kick, we have 3 different kicks being triggered. On the first track, we have Cream Drums Free Edition. This is the best sounding metal library, metal drum plugin, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever heard. This blows the empty power drum kit out of the water. Okay, maybe it doesn't, but it definitely sounds way more modern, which makes sense because it's way newer, way more recent, and it also sounds way more mix ready. I love the way that it sounds. Now, a little caveat is that you do have to download Kontakt in order to use it, but the good news is that Kontakt also has a free version of their plugin. If you don't know, Kontakt is basically a plugin that lets you load different libraries, in this case the Cream Drums. If you just want to load something up and that thing to sound good in a metal context, the Cream Drums is your way to go. The kick basically sounds like this. Now, moving on to the second kick. This one is an instance of the already mentioned empty power drum kit. I'm not gonna waste your time talking about this plugin because I've already done that in the previous video, which you can watch. I think like those cards still exist. If those cards still exist on YouTube, there should be one popping up right now where you can watch more of me blubbering about this empty power drum kit 2 plugin. The kick basically sounds like this. And the third kick track is... I actually don't remember. It's an instance of Trigger 2. Now, what Trigger 2 is basically a plugin that triggers samples based on audio input. It's usually used for triggering samples from live drum recordings. So, for example, you put this on a kick track, and every time it hears a kick, it triggers a sample, and then you blend in the sampled kick with the real kick, and you get a good sound out of it. But this is not how I've used it here. Here, what I've done is I first put an instance of SSD5, which is a free drum plugin, but we don't hear the sound from that plugin anywhere in the mix. That plugin just converts the MIDI to audio because the trigger plugin needs to hear audio in order to trigger the samples. I've basically chosen 3 different samples and it triggers a mix of them. This plugin is very cool. It comes with 2 different kick samples and 2 different snare samples, which are designed for blending in, not really for use on their own. So I think this is a perfect use case for them. And yeah, it basically sounds like this. When we blend all 3 of the kicks, we get a sound like this. Now let's go on to the snare. First up, we again got the Cream Drums, and the snare basically sounds like this. No, that's a kick, you dummy. Like this. I blended that with the snare from ML Drums. This is another free drum plugin made by ML Sound Labs. It's pretty limited in its selection of different shells and cymbals and stuff like that, but the snare sounds really good for blending in. It basically sounds like this. We move to the third sample, which is again an empty power drum kit. The snare from empty power drum kit sounds like this. Okay, let's move on to snare number 4, which is the SSD5. The snare basically sounds like this. And the 5th snare track is an EDM snare that is pitched quite low. It sounds like this. All the different snares together sound like this. Let's move to toms. The toms are basically the SSD5. And we then go to the cymbal bus. In the cymbal bus, we have a hi-hat track, which has a Cream Drums instance. We then have a Crash Right, which has an empty power drum kit instance. We have a China bus, because for the China, I actually created a blend of 2 Chinas. The empty power drum kit China, as well as the Cream Drums China. So they together sound like this. Then we have a right track with a Cream Drums instance, a splash track, again with a Cream Drums instance, and a crash left track, again with yet another Cream Drums instance. This session is not really CPU optimized and not RAM optimized. Like, it's not computer power optimized by any stretch of the imagination. It works fine on my machine, and I really hope it does on your machine too. If you have any issues with all the different instances of different plugins and routing and it sucking a lot of CPU power out, let me know down in the comments. And if you can also suggest a way to make this more CPU friendly, I would be more than happy to change up the template. So please don't hold knowledge to yourself. Leave it down in the comments. We also have a room track, taking audio from the drums, which has an EQ and a stock Ableton reverb to simulate the sound of a room mic. What I actually did is I actually took a room mic, like a recording of a room mic in an actual song, and I just tried to EQ match it, and this is how the EQ looked. I also tried to reverb match it, if that's a thing. And after that, I also added an instance of the TSC 808, which I've already talked about in the previous video. It's just a free Tube Screamer plugin. Tube Screamers on drum rooms is, by the way, a thing, and it sounds amazing. And here's how all of the drums sound together. If you have any feedback, as I've already should have stated in like the A row, let me know down below, but I'm personally very happy. Let's move on to bass. Now, bass was a pretty big problem in the last video. Like, I really wanted to find a very good sounding free bass instrument, and you guys helped me do that. The one that I chose was the Moto Bass 2. This is a plugin by IK Multimedia, which, as you can see, has a paid version with all of these different basses, but the free version is also extremely feature heavy. I originally tried this plugin for the first video, but I couldn't get it to work in lower tunings, like it just stopped at E. And so I pretty much wrote this off until somebody in the comments mentioned that, hey, you can actually make this a 5-string. So yeah, basically when you go to these different pages of the plugin right here, you have all different sorts of crazy options. Like, first of all, here with this thing, you can like choose where the bass is being picked. You can choose whether it's fingerstyle, picking, or slapping, and you can move the freaking pickups. You can move the freaking pickups, guys. It's insane. So if we turn off everything except the Moto Bass 2 plugin, we'll get the DI sound, which sounds like this. I've went a little crazy with the velocities there. And for a bass amp sim, I still like the Growler the best. This one I talked about in the previous video. It's by August Rose Audio. With the bass tone, I tried a bunch of stuff. I tried like some saturation plugins, try splitting into low, mid, and high, and what fit in the best was the Growler. So I'm using that again, but I'm using it into the Frenner IR plugin, and the IRs that I'm using right here are one of the stock ones. I'm using this one, the Aurora 212 GOV, I don't know what that stands for, it just sounded the best, in a blend with this Catharsis IR 8DC, oh actually 7DC. This is a free IR pack by Catharsis Studios. This was not optimized for the bass. I actually did all of this on the guitars, and then I just copied the plugin onto the bass, so it blends well with the guitars. After that, we have some mixing plugins. We have just a sidechain to the kick, a compressor with a very fast release and a very slow attack to make it sound way more punchy, way more attacky, way more aggressive. And then we have a little EQ, just cutting some high mids that I apparently didn't like. The bass overall sounds like this. Pretty cool in my personal opinion. Now let's go on to the guitars. As you can see, the guitars are quad tracked, and let me first show you how I created the guitar tones. It's the exact same for all 4 guitars. So we start with an Aurora DSP tuner. This is just a tuner plugin. It just works better for lower tunings than the stock tuner in Ableton. Then for a boost, we use the Shoeless Drive by Wavemind. This is a drive plugin that is made with collaboration with a guy called Resington, a YouTuber. I'll leave a link for his channel down in the description. I also got recommended his videos in one of my comments, so thank you to the person that recommended that. His videos are actually very cool, and this pedal is also very cool because it's made with boosting plugins in mind. Then for an amp, I used the Amps Roots plugin. I've talked about this plugin already in the last video. And then we got the IR loader that I already showed you. On the guitar bus, we have a little multi-band compressor. Again, you should have a free version of that, a stock version of that in any DAW. We're just compressing the lows here, the low mids, just to get control on those palm mutes so they don't spike up as much. We have a very surgical EQ here, removing quite a few frequencies as well as high passing the guitars and doing a little scoop here on the mids and a little boost on the lows, the low mids rather, and then a compressor with a pretty slow attack and a very fast release, again just like on the bass to give it a bit more bite. The guitar bus sounds like this. And that's basically the body of the song, if you will. Here I have a programming bus, and in this bus I've got a few tracks. First I've got a riser, which is just a riser. Then we have an instance of Kontakt. Kontakt is the plugin that you can load libraries into that I already mentioned, that you need to load the Bogren Digital Cream drums. But when you download it, you also get a crap ton, okay, maybe not a crap ton, but quite a few free, very cool sounding libraries. This here is one of the stock synthesizers, and I'm just adding this to thicken up the guitars. This is not meant for adding a new element to the song like I would use a violin, for example. This is more used for just thickening the guitar tone. On this track after Kontakt, I have an instance of this free saturation plugin by a company that I think is pronounced Klangheim. It's called the IVGI2, and I basically destroy the shit out of the synth with this, and then I just run it into the same IR loader as the guitars. I also have a very similar track, which again has an instance of Kontakt, but it has a different kind of synth loaded into it, which I am again destroying with the IVGI2 and running through the cap simulation. One of these is panned almost left, the other one is panned almost right, and together they sound like this. Here's how they sound with the guitars. Without them. With them again. You see, when you take them out, the guitar tone is really missing something. I have two more tracks. On the first track, I have an instance of Kontakt with the Kinetic Treats library loaded up. This is a free library that comes with Kontakt. It sounds like this. It's panned slightly to the left because panned slightly to the right is an instance of the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discovery Edition. I basically just used a cello. And when you combine it with the Kinetic Treats, they sound like this. And that's basically the entire song. On the master track, an instance of Loud Max by Thomas Mund. I already talked about this. It makes things louder. And yeah, that's basically the entire session. If I didn't explain anything truly enough, or if I missed something, please let me know down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to reply to clear out any confusion. And that's the walkthrough portion of this video. So, the template, it's down in the description as I already stated. As of uploading this video, there should be only an Ableton file in there, because the Ableton Live is the DAW that I use, and it's the only one that I can create all of this shit in. But because I know that Ableton is not really a popular DAW in the metal community, although I think it's gaining popularity and I think it's gonna become a thing soon, I wanna ask you guys to create the template in different DAWs. If you've watched this so far and you think that this is interesting and this template is something of value to the community, and you're, let's say, not an Ableton but a Reaper user, I think Reaper is gonna be a big one, a Cubase user, a Pro Tools user, whatever it is, and you wanna take the time to create this template, please, after making it, email it to me at
channel@alexgichev.com
with the subject line template for Alex, so I can put it in the folder when everybody can access it and download it and don't have to go through the trouble of making it themselves. So if you're watching this in the future, the template link that I've placed in the description should have more than just an Ableton file. By the way, I'm only gonna accept like DAW files, like the DAW specific file extensions, no executables, no zips, no anything like that. And yeah, I'm gonna do like a virus scan on every file I put in the folder, but you guys download them at your own risk. I'm pretty sure it's not very easy to like put a virus in a DAW file, but I don't know, I just want to be safe. By the way, if you have any thoughts on the subject of free plugins, free libraries, creating metal music, please don't hold them to yourself, leave them down in the comments. As I've stated in previous videos, I want this channel to become a very cool space where we all share different tips, tricks, knowledge, experience, etc. surrounding the creation of metal music from a home studio. This is what I enjoy doing the most. I suppose your case is similar, so if what I've just been blabbering about for the past, I don't know, 20 minutes or so sparked any ideas in your head, leave them down in the comments. Thank you so much. By the way, here is a list of plugins that I tried, and it's not like I didn't like them per se, but I just couldn't find a space for them in this particular mix. So yeah, there's no need to recommend any of them, but if you have any thoughts on them, or maybe you think I'm missing out by not using them, definitely let me know. That's basically it for this one. Thank you so much for sticking around and for watching and for commenting and for liking. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.